I'm really starting to get into that banger. Great entry music to the show. Absolutely loving it. Thanks for that, Tristan Rivers, for doing that. And okay, here we go. Let's get into it. We all saw what happened here. I've got a comment here from Stu Smith who says, "Where are we?" Okay, Renny, talk us off the ledge. So you're asking for a kinder, gentler Renny for this show. Stu Smith's asking for it out of the gate. So let's do that. I know some other people. The new Norway Rick put a post out on one of the social medias. I'm asking if I would be my regular insufferable self and if he would need to leave before I'm done reading the ads, talking about our glorious sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. And so I guess, hey, New Norway Rick, I can only be me. That's all I can do. That's all I've ever done is be me. And insufferable is part of who I am. You're just going to have to get used to it if you want to stick around. Okay, kinder, gentler, talk us off the ledge, Renny. Here we go. Folks, clearly the St. Louis area is not an area for the Winnipeg Jets to play hockey in the playoffs, right? And it hasn't been a place that people have wanted to play hockey for a long time. February 22nd, remember what happened that day? It's the last time the Winnipeg Jets beat the St. Louis Blues in St. Louis. It's also the last time St. Louis lost in St. Louis. And if you remember that game, it took a miracle comeback in the last minute and then a win in overtime for the Jets to win that game. So not a hospitable place here. You can see it. A lot of the crowd on Connor Hellebuyck asking for him. We want Connor after he gets pulled, doing the helly thing the entire time. The towel guy, it's an effective device in games like these where every time he counts up and they ring the boxing bell for every goal that they've scored, so one goal, you hear the bell once, 2 goals, you hear it twice. So over the course of 5 goals, you're hearing it, 15 times you're hearing that bell go off. It's an effective, maybe more effective than the "it's all your fault" chants that the Jets fans went through back in the day in Nashville. Of course, how they like to lean on the goaltenders there. Regardless, you don't need to worry about that anymore, Jets fans. Put it behind you. It's gone. You don't need to worry about that until next year. Regardless of what happens, the St. Louis Blues and the behemoth they become when they're playing on home ice, you don't have to deal with that anymore. And so like the Jets have said, and I'm sure we're going to hear from Coach Scott Arniel and we'll hear from the players. That's why you go out and win the President's Trophy in the regular season. So you have that advantage. So reasons to believe, well, the one thing that I think that you can take away from what the Jets have done so far these playoffs is they've finally seemed to have learned how to harness the power of the whiteout. It had been a tough place for them to play for a lot of years, and now they seem to have got it. They seem to know how to harness the energy you bring. I've said it. I think the whiteout has hit a new level this year. That level, I think, has something to do with the confidence that is in the building now. I don't think the building gets quite as quiet when you're scored on anymore. If you're the Jets, you've got the whiteout to lean on. It's been a very effective tool so far. And 2, forget the fact that it's been a true home ice advantage. When you dig into the why, when you dig into the idea that the St. Louis Blues look like they do on home ice, you got to factor into that last change, all the things that go with home ice advantage. And so this is a night where it looks like at the beginning, the Jets start off very good. They're bottling up the St. Louis Blues. It's starting to look like games 1 and 2 and 5, and then things change. And so somewhere in there, the Blues start making some adjustments. Scott Arniel will say that the team just kind of stopped playing the way it was supposed to play, didn't play a full 60 minutes. I think if you heard from the Blues, they didn't like their first 8 minutes. It's how you play when you're not hitting your full 60 minutes. And for the Winnipeg Jets, what that's looked like this year is how many times did we talk on the podcast about those games where the Jets didn't really seem to have it, and yet they were still really sound structurally, right? And the thing that you're worried about with the Winnipeg Jets is the idea that when they're not playing their full 60 minutes, when they're down, man, are they down, and man, are the St. Louis Blues able to take advantage. But we haven't seen that in Winnipeg. And so maybe it's just home cooking, right? Maybe you just feel comfortable in your building. Every time, I can tell you right now, if you played sports, if you played hockey, if you played basketball, there were some buildings that you just went into that just felt right. And a lot of that will have to do, if you grew up playing in Manitoba. Hey, I remember the old Beausejour rink. The ends of the boards were actually attached to the concrete wall. So you learn not to go and hang around there and get hit because there was no give to that. That's how you break ribs. That's how you dislocate shoulders. You get to know rinks. There's a part of that. Every rink has its quirks. The Winnipeg Jets sure know in their own rink how to play that pass off the backboards, the shot on net that's not a shot on net, little things like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it misses the net, bounces off the backboards and comes right back out. It's a pass that they utilize. So teams know how to play their own rink. They know how to play their own ice. There's something about that. The Winnipeg Jets have shown well there. So there's another reason to believe. And here would be, I would think, the final reason to believe. I do think in this series where we've seen the Jets come out with their game plan in games 1 and 2, get to Winnipeg Jets hockey and what that looks like. I'm talking about systems. I'm talking about adjustments, all those kind of things. Scott Arniel wins that battle of systems in games 1 and 2. Clearly, Montgomery turns around, turns the tables, wins it in game 3 and 4. After adjusting, Scott Arniel comes back and the Jets win that battle in game 5. And clearly Montgomery bends it back in their direction and they win it tonight. I do think when you get these little bit of a coach's duel, and maybe I'll say this when it's all said and done after this, maybe this will prove to be one of these Renny takes that is like bang on, and I get to come here and pat myself on the back, which I love to do. I've actually been doing some stretching so I can get more square in the middle of my back to pat myself on the back. But I do think in a series like this, where it's a chess match between two coaches, often the winner of the last game is at a disadvantage because you really don't have much of a choice of doing anything but going with what worked for you in the last game. Now the Winnipeg Jets have tomorrow to dig into that, the coaching staff, and come up with a game plan to try and turn it into their direction. If you do a good job of it, now you have the advantage because to a degree, St. Louis Blues are going to see something a little bit different from the Winnipeg Jets, maybe something they haven't seen before in this series. If you're the Blues, there's no reason to change. You just won the game 5-2. If you're the Jets, you take a look at what didn't work for you here tonight and you respond to it. I think that gives you a little bit of an advantage. So I'll say this, the take I was trying to get to is maybe the Jets win this game just by pulling off 2 straight wins to start the series. Yeah, it's utilizing home ice, and the easy thing to say at the end of it, if the Jets win, is home ice advantage paid off in this series, and maybe it does. The coaches change, all those kind of things that I was talking about. But I do think that the way that this series has gone, Scott Arniel has shown to be a capable coach at making the kind of adjustments that turn the game in your favor the way that he did in game 5. And because of that, I do think in a series where teams are punching back and forth and going to game 7, we saw this between the St. Louis Blues, coached by Craig Berube back in the day, and the Dallas Stars, coached by Jim Montgomery back in the day, that it was almost like the last guy to make his adjustments was the successful guy. Scott Arniel's got the opportunity to come up with a game plan and maybe some tweaks responding to what we saw here tonight that the St. Louis Blues will take time to catch on to. That means it's important for the Jets to have a really good first period in game 7 to take advantage of that. They can't come out and be putting up 2 shots like they did on this night. But if you're looking for reasons to believe, the whiteout, home ice advantage, last change, and really the idea that the Jets get to create heading into the next game. And if you create the right game plan, it just may very well be enough to confound the Blues and keep them from getting to the style of hockey we saw from them tonight and in games 3 and 4. And that, ladies and gentlemen, could just be enough for your Winnipeg Jets to walk away and make it and book their ticket to the second round. That's Optimistic Renny opening the show. Don't get used to it. It doesn't happen very often. Now we're going to bring in Ken, who's always Mr. Optimistic, and he's always got the best music in the business before he comes in the show. So let's play it right now, folks. Here he comes.
Two balls in one.
Kenny, my friend, I'm glad you're wearing that. A, because I love the wake up shirt. It looks like $1,000,000. And B, because I like to talk about myself. And only one of us is wearing Vittorio Rossi, and that's me, which means I get to talk about myself more. And I get to talk about this stellar. Look at this. I'll do the Scott Oak Moon. Oh, there goes reverse gravity there, folks. I've got this stellar blue coat, golden tie, white shirt, deadly combo. I'm wearing my suede. I know they're suede shoes. I like to call them suede slippers. They're so comfortable. It's hot down here, so I get to bust out these kind of things in the playoffs here. And hey, if you want to bust out the kind of things that have people, I got a whistle today. I actually got a whistle. I don't know. Dude, chick, I don't know what it was. I didn't turn around. I'm married. I can't be doing that kind of stuff. But if you want to be looking like this, heading out and about on town, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you upright. Ken, take it away, my guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had a better view than I did, but sometimes the view from the couch brings some different perspective. And I mean, it was just a bit of a wild game here again. I mean, the Jets had moments where they looked like they may not get scored on again, and then they had moments where it looked like they forgot how to be in their structure. Blues doing a nice job on a number of fronts. I mean, Jets did do a good job on the power play, which has been a struggle for them this series. 2 for 14 going into the game.
Check 1, 2, 3. Sorry.
Better, I
Go
think.
on.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're good.
Okay.
2 for 6 today, so that gets them to what, 4 for 20. That's 20%. I mean, that it's trending a little bit, I guess. And their penalty kill, which had struggled so mightily, Sean, early in the series when the Blues got 6 quickies on the power play, was also perfect again, I think, today. So special teams was about the only battle that they've won. Other than that, I mean, I'm not sure, Sean. I mean, this is a little bit confounding for a team that has been, I was just writing my day after analysis. I mean, the Jets were the most consistent team in the NHL this year, yet their playoff series has been complete Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? I mean, and it's not just full games, it's parts of games, and things just have, we've heard the words unraveled and implosion, right? I mean, these are not words that we associate with the team that allowed the fewest goals in the NHL in each of the last 2 seasons. So that is uncharacteristic. That is true. But it's happening a little bit too often, to ignore it outright. I mean, yes, Sean, your point is valid. The Jets have not had this unraveling on home ice. That's true. But, they're going to have to turn the tables quickly here. Again, they expressed confidence in themselves, and they should be confident, but they need to be confident, because if they don't get the job done on Sunday night, there are going to be a lot of difficult questions coming their way again for a third consecutive spring here. So again, that burden is something that they can deal with down the road. This is a team that's prided itself on its singular focus all year long, Sean, and you got to put the blinders on for Game 7. But I mean, this thing, Sean, the big difference is that, yes, all they can do is focus on one game right now. If they win the game, it saves their season momentarily, but it doesn't allow them to call the season a success, right? I mean, I don't think they've done a lot of great things. They're going to put up a banner for being the President's Trophy winners, but I mean, this is like when Toronto got past the first round for the first time since 2004. I mean, you're not having a parade for winning one round. I mean, the Jets have bigger goals than just getting out of the first round, but right now they have to focus on getting out of the first round, because the alternative is another first round exit, which is something that they don't want to have to deal with or decipher for the next 4 months. So they're going to have to lean on the things that have made them successful. There is a lengthy laundry list of those things. Best players have to be their best players. Their goalie has to be their best. Their goalie, who is up for the Hart Trophy, has to be their best player. He has not been their best player in this series. He has not been the best goalie in the series. He has made the 2 most spectacular saves in the series, but he's also let in 2 of the softest goals of the series. And that is also something that's uncharacteristic for Connor Hellebuyck. He hasn't been pulled at all this year or last year Yet he's been pulled 3 times in 6 games. Yes, all of them have happened on the road. And getting him out of the game was absolutely the right call to allow him to reset for Game 7. But this is it's a monumental moment for Hellebuyck, and it's a monumental moment for the franchise, Sean, quite frankly. Again, they can't worry about the long-term ramifications, but this is a team that knows what is at stake for them in terms of reputation and narrative and all those things. And they're right. Narrative doesn't matter. But the reason the narrative is there is not because of a bunch of negative Nellies in the media, Sean. That perception is there because of the facts that have unraveled since 2018. So those things we'll dig into when the time comes. But this team needs a better effort from a number of players. Some of them are their best players. Some of them are their role players. And they'll need their coaching staff to come up with their best plan of the season. We talked and applauded them for doing their homework between game 4 and 5, and they had their best game of the series. Well, they're going to have their best game of the series also. I think that the coaching staff is doing its job. I don't think the coaching staff is promoting the types of breakdowns that have been occurring. And I know the coaches can make an impact on the game, but I'm an execution person. Right now, Sean, the Jets aren't executing the way that they need to be in order to advance and go on a lengthy run. So we talked about the changes that were made in Game 5, and I think the Jets need to get back to their structure. And when they do that, they're right. Scott O'Neill's right. When the Jets play to their structure, they're a hard team to play against. But when they don't, they're not as hard a team to play against. And at times the Blues have made them look mortal in this series. And there's been other times where the Jets have made the Blues look mortal. That's the beauty of a 3-3 series with a winner takes all showdown. Great time to show what you're made of right through the lineup. And it's going to take every single player in that lineup for the Jets to advance and to avoid a first round disappointment.
I wanted to go somewhere right away.
Yep.
I wanted to go to this comment. Tenacity says, well, let's go to this because people have been on me about this. It's a topic of conversation. Tenacity says, you can't deny playing Comrie takes a lot of the anxiety out of the picture. Game 7 sounds stupid, but true. Brent F. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't agree with this. Brent F. says, I think we live and die by Helly. No choice but to go with him on Sunday. So let me just start off this topic of conversation. I'm going to give Brent the flame and comfort hot take on this one, because I'm going to tell you this, and I'm the guy who said that they should be going with Eric Comrie in Game 5 of this series. I'm that guy, and I'm saying you can't go with Comrie now. You have to go with Connor Hellebuyck, and there's a very good reason for that. Because he nailed this, okay? Brent F. absolutely nails this, and that, of course, gives him the K&R Hot Take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth-related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside, folks. You can visit Flame and Comfort, and they'll take care of it for you. Okay, this is why, though, I think it's a glaring error, and this is like, I love this. I love T. Will, of course, coming in and going at me last show and talking about how stupid my take was to put Mike or Comrie in net. And he took the Jets 842, the Jets win where Vladislav Domestikov goes supernova, and Connor Hellebuyck's 842 save percentage in that game as evidence that I was stupid to suggest that. I'm telling you right now, the reason why you go with Connor Hellebuyck right now is because it's too late. It's too late to try anything else. So you have to go with this guy. He's the guy you've gone with all year. You can't make that change now because you don't know how your team is going to react. You don't know how Eric Comrie is going to react to starting. in this situation right now. And let's be honest, you don't know how Connor Hellebuyck is going to react. Like at this point, there's no way you can say anything other than clearly Connor Hellebuyck, with the numbers that he's produced in the playoffs over the last number of years, there's something about the playoffs that is affecting him and is either in his head or affecting his play. Anyone who says anything otherwise is just not watching. But you have no other choice at this point. This is why last year, against the Colorado Avalanche, when I called for Laurent Brossoit to come into the series earlier on in the series, when I called for Eric Comrie to come into the series during Game 5, this is why it's time to make that move at that time. Because if it doesn't work out, you still have Game 6 to go back to Connor Hellebuyck and see if putting Eric Comrie in the net at that time has the effect that you want it to have on Connor Hellebuyck. What you want from Connor Hellebuyck is him to respond and say, Tenacity says, let's talk goaltending, Sean. Let's go. I'm already doing it. I don't know what you're telling me to do it for. I'm already doing it. You're hijacking the process here, Tenacity. Just kidding. But the whole point of Comrie going in, and it'll be the same thing in Edmonton right now, the whole point of them going with Pickard is to try and balance things, yes, but it's also to create a scenario by which you get from your starting goaltender time for him to sit back and see, listen, the girl broke up with me and she went with that other guy. I'm pretty jealous and I want him back, or I want her back. Okay. That's the kind of feeling that you are trying to initiate with a goaltender. You want Connor Hellebuyck to look at the crease that Comrie is in and say, I want it back. And Comrie, who's given you every reason to believe, I don't say go with Eric Comrie because what you want is Eric Comrie as your goaltender for the rest of the playoffs. I say go with Eric Comrie because so far, like he was tonight, he's a calming influence when he goes into the net. Maybe you get that and you see if you get that from a full game out of your team. And then maybe by seeing him in that net, Connor Hellebuyck looks and says, I want that back. And it reaches something different in him that he has not been able to reach in his time as a playoff performing goaltender. And he's never been put in a scenario where he's needed to go and fight to get that back. If it doesn't work with Comrie, you go back to Hellebuyck in Game 6. And for all those people out there who are saying, well, you insult your starting goaltender and now he's mad. If that's Connor Hellebuyck's response to being challenged, then we're not talking championship caliber goaltender here. Brodeur, think of all the big names in the history of the game, Carey Price, Patrick Waugh, none of these guys are being like, well, you pulled me, so I'm not going to try anymore. So anyone who wants to try and say that it's insulting to your goaltender, get that out of here. That's garbage. If you think that the Connor Hellebuyck is that weak of mind that he would give up on the Jets because they went with somebody else, then that's not your guy. If he really would be, then that's not your goaltender, okay? So, but it's too late now. You have no choice. This is a decision, Ken, that should have been made last year in the playoffs, where they should have challenged Connor Hellebuyck, where they should have given their backup who'd done everything asked of him to show his never mind, who is a guy who was a goaltender in the crease of the Stanley Cup champions and had shown that he was capable of pulling out a series at that time. They had that with Laurent Brossoit, and they wouldn't go to it then. If they had gone to it, at least you would have figured out last year, for the betterment of the future of the Winnipeg Jets going forward, you would have found out if it did have a positive effect on Connor Hellebuyck. If it was a tool you could pull out like the Edmonton Oilers do with Stuart Skinner. And last year when Stuart Skinner lost the crease to another goaltender, when he got his opportunity, he took it back and was brilliant. The best version of Stuart Skinner we've ever seen for the Edmonton Oilers, taking them within one game of the Stanley Cup. We would have found out if that would have worked last year, if the Jets would have done that, if they would have done what most teams would do and given their backup an opportunity to do that. Missed opportunity. We don't know if it works with Connor Hellebuyck. Missed opportunity in Game 5. We don't know if it works with Connor Hellebuyck. And now, because we don't know, it is too late. The stakes are too high. It's winner take all. It's one game. So you have to go with the guy who got you to the dance at this stage. And that's why Renny is not. A lot of people thought I was going to show up here and be like, it's time to go with Eric Comrie. No, that would be ridiculous. But it wasn't ridiculous in Game 5. It was an opportunity to invest in the future of of this Winnipeg Jets team, and to be quite honest, in the future of Connor Hellebuyck as a playoff performer. And instead, what we got out of him was an .842 save percentage in Game 5 and a whole bunch of people applauding that like it was an example that things had worked. And now tonight, when the Blues show up in a bit of a different way, it's not working. So now you're stuck with it. You got to hope that that Connor Hellebuyck either finds his game at the very last minute, which he has not done in playoffs past for the most part, or you need your Winnipeg Jets team to do in front of them what they did in Game 5, what they did in Game 1, where their goaltender was struggling and they just stopped allowing the Blues to shoot. It's one of those two things, and it better come to fruition because you have not pulled the levers available to you in the past to try and see if you could get a different outcome.
I mean, just the one quick thing. I mean, another apt comparison would be what happened with Florida a couple of years ago when they sat Bob
last year. They win the cup.
No, not last year. It was 2 years ago when
Yeah,
Alex Lyon was still there. But still, the point, that was the year that Monty got knocked out of the playoffs by Florida, right? They went from breakaway for Pasta in overtime to losing the series. So
right, but Ken, just so I just want to respond to that quickly. An investment in their future, an investment at that time where they said, look, this is our Vezina winning high ticket goaltender, our clear number one. And they went with someone who is unproven and forced Bob to be challenged in that situation. He responded to the challenge, took his team to the cup, wins the cup next year, is brilliant in Game 7. They invested in the future of the team by finding different ways to challenge their goaltender. This is a wild card in the Jets deck that they've been sitting on for years and refuse to play time and time again. It is too late to play it for Game 7.
Right, but I mean, the biggest difference for Lyon that year was that Lyon actually saved the Panthers season down the stretch, whereas Comrie is just playing a supporting role. So that's the big difference. But yeah, I mean, it's something that other teams have done, and I like the comparison to Bob a little better than Stuart Skinner. I like the way that Stuart Skinner is accountable, but Bob is a multiple-time Vezina Trophy winner. So if you can take away the guy's job who has, is making $10 million. It means that other teams are also doing that sort of thing. And again, I'm not advocating for anybody other than Connor Hellebuyck to be starting in Game 7 either. But this is a big moment for Hellebuyck. Like, let's not mess. There's no messing around here. I mean, this is the way it goes. I mean, when you are up for the Hart Trophy, you need to play like a Hart Trophy candidate. And Connor Hellebuyck needs to have his best game of the series. The numbers don't matter anymore. 842, 725, 998. I mean, he's got to be good in Game 7. Connor Hellebuyck needs to be the best version of himself, and the Jets need to be the best version of themselves in front of Connor Hellebuyck. It doesn't matter how many paddle down saves, highlight reel specials you make. You can't be giving up any soft goals, and you need to battle through traffic. That is what Connor Hellebuyck's job is. Make the routine saves look routine, and if you happen to steal a couple goals, that's what he has to do. We said it after Game 5, Sean. We knew Jordan Binnington would be better today, and he was better today. Now it's up to Connor Hellebuyck to follow suit. Doesn't need to put on the Superman cape, try to carry his team on his own. He needs to deliver his best performance of this series, and the rest will be up to the rest of the team. But he needs to do his job. And again, I've said this throughout the series. I expect him to do his job in Game 7. And if he doesn't, again, it's going to be a long off season for Connor Hellebuyck. But I cannot imagine that, he does not raise his level before the series is over.
Hey, Torin Basra asked, "Are you guys AI
check
or
the receipts
are you all real people? Do you think I'd really choose to look like this if I was AI? If I had a choice to look like anything I want, do you really think that I would pick this? Come on." Give me a break here. People keep pointing out Binnington was brilliant on this night again. A couple of real $10. Now he's not going to get the save of the game, but he walks away quite handily with the Renny stat on this night. Ken, I wanted to go to the Pristine Roofing wake-up call that the head coach tried to give his team before the game. kind of adjusting the lines the way that he did and bringing, a little bit of, jostling the lines in a way that there was something new for every line. So you get Nemesnikov, I guess there's maybe stability from game to game and that, and clearly that line wins you game 5 of this series.
Yep.
You're not there without that. So maybe a little bit less dynamic there, but the second line moving Lowry up as you're adding Ehlers onto that line. Third line, Morgan Barron moving up to that third line. So you've got that, changed up third line, and then fourth line bringing in Dominic Toninato. I want to get your takeaway. I had thought it was a little strange they went in that direction. The thing I found was most strange is I thought the Jets looked a lot like themselves in game 5. And I thought a lot of that had to do with the third line reuniting, which is a strength that this team has. And they moved away from that strength. Change was greater than stability. Thought to be in this situation. I want to know how you thought that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about it during the year. I wanted to see more of Nikolai Ehlers with Adam Lowry, and we saw it today. But my personal view is for Game 7, the Jets should be riding with their identity line. They should be riding Lowry, Appleton, and Niederreiter. And this is twofold for me. It's not that Adam can't handle the extra minutes. It's that line is their identity line, and their line sets the tone for everything else. For me, also, Morgan Barron is playing so well. Again, we had this debate a month or whatever ago when someone suggested put Morgan Barron in as the 2C. I don't see that as a long-term solution, but in this series, Sean, I would put Morgan Barron with Nikolai Ehlers, because the way that Morgan Barron is playing, he can open up room for Nikolai Ehlers and Cole Perfetti offensively. So I think the greater value is having Lowry on a line where he can either A, go up against Braden Shen, or B, go up against Robert Thomas. Sean, here's the scary part about the Blues today. Jets actually held Robert Thomas quite in check and still gave up 5. So to me, I think you got to have Lowry on the identity line, checking line in Game 7. And also, too, I know that it doesn't count, and because of the offside, the successful coach's challenge. But that move Morgan Barron makes,
oh my goodness,
is an all-world move.
God mode.
That is a move where you want to see Morgan Barron with skilled players like Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers, who I liked in his game as he returned. Great chance on the backhand. Sean, if he's a right-handed shot on that first rebound chance in the first period, it's 1-0 Jets, right? I mean, the Binnington makes a good save. It kicks out, and Ehlers made a great backhand on the play. But if he's right-handed and he's Gabe Vilardi, that's bar down, and other things are happening here. But in terms of Toninato, I had a lot of people. I'm sure you did too. Jared Anderson-Dolan's having a really fun series. Very physical. He's got a tip-in goal. But to me, I'm all for Toninato being in this game. He had 4 hits. He's involved. He's a guy who's played with Alex Iafallo. They were roommates, Sean, back in their Fargo Forest days of the USHL. So I don't mind the fact that they went with, again, I promote David Westman's a guy who has played well when he's been in the series, but he's not super fast and he's not super physical. So the fact that Toninato goes in, I can understand why that happened. And I thought he was fine in the game. He played 7 minutes and change. Anderson Dolan, did the Jets miss his disruptiveness on the forecheck? At times, maybe, sure. But that wasn't the reason why the Jets got themselves discombobulated and had a couple of weird plays, and a simple play that's D to D from Luke Shen to Dylan DeMello skips over his stick, and then the Jets can't recover. I mean, that's just a weird goal that happens. But just didn't like the way that the Jets defended in a number of areas. The Nathan Walker goal is another absolute breakdown by the Jets. There's 4 people around the goal scorer, and nobody's checking him. There's 2 defensemen down low, which is fine. You can have 2 defensemen down low if you have your coverage in front. And I think all of Niederreiter and Appleton and one other player were surrounding Nathan Walker, and nobody checked him. So, I mean, that can't happen. But to your original question, I thought the lines were fine. Obviously, Nemesnikov did not have the same impact as he had in Game 5, Sean. I think that's pretty clear. Neither did Kyle Connor. He did have a couple good scoring chances, but that line wasn't as effective. Vilardi was involved again, but again, we always talk about it. It's that first game is a little bit easier because you're playing on adrenaline, but now you're in a track meet and you're trying to catch your breath, quite frankly. So um, Scott O'Neill has some tough decisions to make when it comes to the lines, Sean. I mean, you just roll with Nemestikov because that's your best option. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. Outside of Lowry's line staying together, I think that I would play Barron on the second line, and I would keep Nemestikov at the top for now, and then just sort of see what happens. But in terms of what the lines look like, I think they were fine. Tanev was disruptive again. He was on the forecheck, on the body. But the Jets didn't get enough from enough people in the game, and that's going to have to change in Game 7. What did you think?
I'm going to get into it. Sorry, I called for the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, and I forgot to carry through on it. So you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. If you don't want to talk to Rick, I don't know why you wouldn't want to. He's a wonderful gentleman. I go for coffee with him all the time. Looking forward to doing it again here. But hey, give your home the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. You will be happy that you did. I got to say, Ken, I think when you've got a scenario where your top line center goes out and Vladislav Nemesnikov goes up there, you're looking for as much continuity as you can get. So I've already talked about this. I was on the radio at with Sportsnet out of Calgary in the morning, and they were asking me about, what I thought was going to happen and where was the lineup going to stay the same, or David Gustafsson going to draw. And David Gustafsson, Jared Anderson-Dolan have been really good in this series. Yep. They're guys that what you're going to get out of those guys. I kind of got to say that I would have almost liked the idea of, and let's just say, okay, I'm the guy in the past who's talked about Cole Perfetti at center, and I've said he's not there. He's not there as a centerman. But if I would have told you, Ken, at the beginning of the season, you're going into Game 6 of a playoff series, and your centers are 1C Vladislav Nemestikov, 2C Adam Lowry, 3C Morgan Barron, and 4C Dominic Toninato, how much of a chance would you have thought the Winnipeg Jets would have had in that game?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yeah. Sorry, Nemesnikov, Lowry, Barron, and Dominic Toninato.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, if I would have said to you, these are your 4 centers in a Game 6 of a playoffs, what do you think your chances would be in that game?
Well,
Nothing against those guys, but this isn't the kind of center depth that you're looking for in the playoffs, right? This is not an ideal situation. So
agreed.
If there's a chance to say, okay, we got to do something on center, I'd rather be creative, and I'd rather say, okay, let's try Cole Perfetti on the second line, and let's keep Alex Iafallo up on that line, a guy who's been great in these playoffs so far, and put him somewhere where he can potentially make a difference and roll with that second line. Stay with Vladislav Nemestikov on the top, on the first line, because you saw that last game, and maybe you can get that again. Keep your third line together, which a lot of people think, I'm one of them, is the best third line in the game, and have that continuity and at least establish a smothering style of hockey that is not a 5-goal type of game, a game that is defense first, and say, listen, we're going to go into this and we're going to try and win this game 1-0, and you give yourself the best shot of doing that by putting that third line together. And then on that last line, I like the idea of putting in Jared Anderson-Dolan, leaving Brandon Tanev, and putting Gustafsson in there, because both those two players have had an impact in the playoffs so far. You took the three players in this lineup who've had an impact in the playoffs so far, probably beyond what you would expect from those players: David Gustafsson, Alex Iafallo, and Jared Anderson-Dolan, and you took one and dropped them all the way down the lineup, eventually from the first line to the fourth line, and took 2 of them out of the lineup. And I think that in the middle of a playoff series, trying to create something new out of nothing, out of nowhere. I think you should have been grasping onto whatever stability you had, and David Gustafsson would have provided that. Jared Anderson Dolan would have provided that. Then if you keep Morgan Barron, or you keep Morgan Barron in that spot and have Gustafsson or one of the other guys there. But I think keeping Iafallo in the top 6, where he has paid dividends so far, and I mean that's probably going to lead to our Cambrian payoff here. He's paid dividends up the lineup so far. Moving him down took away his ability to have that kind of effect on a night where you needed that. With the loss of Mark Scheifele, you need as much scoring as you can get. It puts a lot on a guy like Nikolai Ehlers to figure it out. I know you like the mix between what you see from Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers, and you've liked that so far this year. I really haven't seen that pay off with Cole Perfetti on the side with that line, and I really don't think that the upside of that matches the upside of having the third line. So I think this is a case where there was just a little bit too much newness on every line. I get it that Dominic Toninato comes into the lineup because he played for like 5 years in college and in junior hockey with Alex Iafallo, so you're hoping that there's some kind of click there. I, like you, think that Dominic Toninato went out and gave it a good, the good old college try. Like you said, lots of hits. He was one of the guys who looked to be out there trying to spark the Jets. So I think he did his job. But I think you needed one of those situations like you got out of Vladislav Nemestikov in the last game where you do more than your job. That's what you require at this stage with the personnel that you have and losing a guy like Mark Scheifele. So I thought there was too much fiddling with the lines on this. I would expect that there's going to be a move back to players who've proven you can do it in this series. No one knows what's going to happen with Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele walks back in and we know what's going to happen. That top line is going to lock in. Nemestikov will go back down to the second line. The third line will go back to that. And then you are going to go with Alex Iafallo on the fourth line and probably Morgan Barron there and Brandon Tanev. That one guy knocks everything back into space and everything suddenly becomes like massive continuity, Ken. Tonight was an example of maybe the most, I don't know what the word is, but the most all fluid place, the lack of fluidity, the most all over the place lineup that we've seen for the Jets maybe all season. So I will say this. I personally think that keeping Alex Iafallo, finding a way, and it shouldn't have been that hard to find a way to keep him higher up the lineup, would have paid off for the Winnipeg Jets. And hey, folks, if you are looking to pay off high-interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambria Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt-free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars in the process. So go to cambrian.nb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, you have something you want to say in retort?
No
retorts.
Well,
no retorts.
I said earlier, I just don't. I don't. I love the way that Iafallo plays, but you're not playing him ahead of Connor, Velarde, or Ehlers. That means ahead of Perfetti. And to me, I just
that's why I said I'm not suggesting that. I suggested moving Perfetti over.
Oh, to center. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's asking a lot of Cole. He hasn't played center all year, so I'm not saying you shouldn't try it.
Cole, just like you're asking a lot of Vladislav Nemestikov, like you're asking a lot of Dominic Toninato. You know, like I think this was one of those things where they tried to try a whole bunch of new things to make it all work all over the place. And in the end, what you did is you sent out 4 lines that were all trying to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. Just quickly, I mean, again, we have no updates and we don't expect to get any in, not even on Sunday morning, but I'll be surprised if Mark, and again, you're not saying he is playing, but I don't expect to see Mark Scheifele in Game 7. If he was more day-to-day, I think he could have been on the flight to St. Louis. Now, again, they may have just wanted to keep him home to get treatment on whatever he's dealing with. But I personally, we already saw somebody come out of the Undertaker special out of the coffin for WrestleMania here today with Nikolai Ehlers. So I'll be surprised if Scheifele follows suit on Sunday. But again, that's the beauty of the playoffs. We don't know. Rain, what's up with 55? Is there no news? Well, there's no news to report because no one is no one is saying what the injury is. I mean, Scott O'Neill wouldn't say or not if he was in concussion protocol. So, we're trying to follow the breadcrumbs, but he was hit hard twice. I mean, it could be a concussion. It could be anything. I mean, that's and the reason we're not reporting is because we don't know what to be reporting on. If we knew the answers, we would be reporting the answers. So, anyways, I'm not expecting to see Scheifele on Sunday, but again, who knows? Beauty of the playoffs. Sometimes guys are able to battle through things and get into the lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what Scott does, with the lines for sure. But again, like I said earlier, I think that putting the Lowry line back together is a stabilizer, no matter what they do in the top six with Barron or with Vladislav Nemestikov, or if they keep Lowry up there.
Yeah. Read it and weep, folks. There's okay.
How about Sweet Lou quickly? Let's get it.
Yeah. Why don't you go for it? Go for it.
Okay, folks. For the folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Fernlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
Excellent stuff. Do you want to talk about Josh Morrissey? And just the take about where you think his focus is. I know Ken. So Ken was worried with the tie-up that Josh Morrissey had at the end of not at the end of the game, but at that point where he gets that
with
penalty, Falk, and worried about that maybe not being the best place for his energy to go.
I love the fire. I just think it's dangerous for him in a series where you already lost Mark Scheifele and both Ehlers and Velarde are not 100%. I applaud the aggression and the enthusiasm. Josh is a guy who we know mixes it up and he gets involved, but hasn't dropped the gloves a ton. And if he gets hurt in a fight, I don't think that is a good outcome for the Winnipeg Jets, and it's just not worth the risk for me. Josh is the kind of guy that is incredibly impactful, and he's going to need to be impactful on Sunday night, much like he was in Game 2.
Okay, I wanted to go in a different direction. You all know how I've talked my take when it comes to diving, angering the hockey gods, all those kind of things, however you want to put it. I wouldn't say it's hockey gods. I will say this. Ken and I had this conversation. Ken doesn't believe it. I do believe that the Sandberg stick that he gets, is it Bull Duke that he's with there, Ken?
No, it's Walker.
It's Walker. Walker gets the penalty. The Jets end up scoring. I do believe it was an embellished play. Now, let me make something absolutely and 100% clear here. I'm not on the ice. I don't know what it feels like every once in a while. A stick can get you in a spot, and it feels a lot different than what it may look like on the ice. So I look at it. To me, it's a play that looks embellished by Dylan Sandberg. And regardless of whether or not it was taken as embellished by the St. Louis Blues. On the bench, Jim Montgomery does the old diving thing towards the refs in that situation. Now, let's be clear, and Ken did point this out, I think the purpose of them calling the 5-minute major, this is what refs do now if they want a second look at something. They call it a 5-minute major, and it's probably not going to be a 5-minute major. But if it's something worthy of a 5-minute major, they can call it. But if not, they can call it a no penalty at all. I personally was surprised that they came with a penalty. I actually thought there was a danger. I don't know the rules enough, Ken, to know if you can initiate and call a new call. I don't believe you can. I think
No, I don't think you get embellishment there. I think you would either take it off entirely or reduce it to a minor.
Right. But I do think in the end, what ends up happening in this situation is the refs get a look at this and they look at a play where Dylan Sandberg looks to be really, really hurt. And it's hard to decipher where the really, really hurt came from in this situation. Regardless, hockey gods, whatever you say, however you want to put it, I personally believe the reason that you don't embellish and why I'm really never happy when I see it is because at the very least what it does is it comes across as being disingenuous to the team that you're playing against, and that pisses them off. And I think what happened in this situation here is that pissed the Blues off because they thought that they got suckered and drawn in by a fake hurt by Dylan Sandberg in this situation, and that it looks like that on the replay and that in the building. There's massive boos when it happens because that's what everyone in the building sees, and a lot of people are seeing that on TV. And in that situation, the Jets go, and I think this is potentially one of these situations where, yes, Dylan Samberg wins the battle in this because he draws the penalty and the Jets score, and it's a tie game. And it's followed up with the Blues getting absolutely insanely energized and scoring 4 goals over the matter of 5 minutes and 30 seconds. This, to me, is why you don't do this, because I think that there's an explanation to be had that the St. Louis Blues got pissed off by this, that they feel they got suckered by that, and that motivates the team, and they go out and boom, 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 boom. Next thing you know, the score is 5-1, and this game is over. I don't like it. I never like it if this is an embellished play. I've said this. I don't care if it's the Jets. I don't care if it's the Kings, the Blues. I don't care who it is. I've never liked this in hockey. I think what it does is it creates emotion in your opponents that has the potential to fire up your opponents. I'm not saying it happened in this situation, but the timing of it doesn't look good. And the possibility for it having had an effect is there. Just play hockey, okay? Go out, play the game, play it hard. Don't be looking for calls. Don't be doing these kind of things that come across as being disingenuous, because I think you would be just as pissed off if you were a Jets fan and the same thing had gone in the other direction. Don't give your opposite. Like, this to me is on ice bulletin board material. That's what a dive is. It is on ice bulletin board material. It's something that fires up your opposition. I personally think that's what we saw happen on this night here. This is the case of doing that. Sometimes you win the battle. I think you have the potential to lose the war in that situation, but you don't agree, Ken.
I didn't see a dive. I didn't see a flop, but I saw Walker turn his stick over. I don't think it's a full spear pitchfork. I don't think but I thought it was in the rib area. Again, I'm not on the receiving end, but we have both been on the receiving end of plays that are in that area. And I think he got him in an uncomfortable spot. That's what I saw. Again, and maybe you'll know this better than I do. Is it possible that the TNT replay is different than the Sportsnet replay, or is it the same feed? Because I thought the feed that I saw was pretty clear, but you didn't see anything, and I thought that there was maybe a different angle where he shows him kind of
there's different cameras, right? So you may be entirely right, and that's why I said this, and that's why I coach this. I'm telling you right now, I'm just telling you what I see, and I'm telling you that I could tell you right now that's what the Blues saw. What I saw is what the Blues saw, and that has the potential to do this. Now, I'm making it clear I can't feel that, and I may be seeing we're watching the American feed, and you better believe, Ken, that inside the St. Louis Blues building, they're going to show whatever view looks most like it's not a penalty. That's what you do with home ice advantage, right? So I'm conceding 100% up front. I'm just going by what I saw, and I don't know how it feels, and maybe Dylan Samberg absolutely was nailed in a spot that was uncomfortable, and his reaction was 1,000% generous or genuine. Okay. I want to concede that. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm saying what I saw looks like that. It's what the St. Louis Blues saw, and whatever the St. Louis Blues are reacting off of what they saw, which I think gives them the potential to get fired up. But to your point, maybe we're seeing two different things, and maybe I'm seeing a different view. It's again,
I saw Monty give the diving sign. Sure. I mean, that's what he would. And the other thing that I saw, Sean, is Nathan Walker in the box. He looked guilty to me. He didn't look like he was saying, he wasn't giving it the, oh, come on. But again, young player working his behind off on the fourth line, maybe he wouldn't react that way. But we've seen plenty of players who had the opposition dive, and they would be much more animated. And again, I just think that if that were the case and there was a nothing burger there, the refs would have called nothing. They were not obligated to call a minor in that situation.
You're right. So, and that's just it. So like the refs had a second look at this and determined that there was something there.
My other point, I have not seen Dylan Samberg dive once all season. So it would be an odd time to be trying to draw a penalty in the way the game was being played. I mean, Dylan's a guy that plays the game hard. So I just didn't see that part of it for me.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, time for us to get to our awards, and that will start us off with the Johnson Group Got You
Oh
Covered
man.
play of the game. I think we've got the same one here. Even though the Jets lose, the most crucial Got You Covered play of that game is
Oh, you
Neil
go. Yeah.
Pionk,
Yeah.
who stops a puck from going over the goal line in the first period, which really comes on the heels of the keg
Yep.
save of the game as well, which we'll get to in just a little bit. But do you have a different one
No,
on that
no.
one, Ken? Great
I was going
play.
to say the only other thing is Comrie coming out of the bullpen again and, providing some stability in the third period. But yeah, I mean, I think that the play by Pionk to ensure there's no goal I'm with you 100%.
Okay, that's our Johnson Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? You need to look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that brings us quite naturally to our keg save of the game, which happened right before that, which should give you a hint at who is getting that award. Ken, you take it away with this one.
Yeah, you know what? I'm also want to just shout out Jordan Binnington's pad save on Kyle Connor. I believe it's a second period power play where we've talked about this stat for a long time, and it continues to baffle. And now that the Jets are one game away from either moving on or being eliminated, the fact that Kyle Connor, yes, I know it's on the backhand and it's at a weird angle, but I mean, it's a great save by Binnington. And now Kyle Connor has gone, I think I did the tabulations. I think he's up to 52 games without a power play goal. And that's absolutely wild for someone as gifted and how much of a threat he is. It's an incredible job by opposition penalty kills. So we're going to have to go with the Hellebuyck paddle down, which was another ridiculous save on Jimmy Snuggerud. But yeah, that's my keg save of the game. But I just think that the Binnington save on Kyle Connor, just given the timing and where things were at, was absolutely pivotal as well.
Yeah, he had. I don't think he had quite the 10 beller that Connor Hellebuyck
Yeah,
did by paddle slash. I think it was actually the blocker that stopped
sure.
along the ice. But there was probably 3 or 4 9 bellers from Jordan Binnington there, no doubt. But you don't get it for the second best save. It's not the Keg's second best save of the game, folks. It's the Keg
True.
save of the game. Share with us your keg save of the game. You are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations there in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And Ken, I sent you the winner from the last show, but I haven't written it down. Did you happen to?
How many text messages have you sent me this week?
Why don't you say something really cool and interesting to the people while I figure this out? That would be, it's all yours, buddy. It's all yours. Take it away. Oh, I've got it right here. Too late. You missed your chance. You had an opportunity to
We've had an hour to do it. No, it's good.
Go. Wayne Gretzky. Wayne
Oh,
Gretzky.
yes.
You know what
Good
to
one.
do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your name. Send me your full name. Send me an email, and I will send you, or I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations there in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our TCB lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
It's again, it's not the prettiest goal, but to me, it's the goal that breaks the camel's back here. It's got to be the Schenn goal. I know folks won't like it, but in a series that has had such a slim margin for error, the fact that Brayden Schenn beat Connor Hellebuyck, yes, he used Neil Pionk as a screen. Yes, that's a fact. But that's a shot that has to be stopped at that point of the game. And the fact that it wasn't stopped led to a 4-goal onslaught in a 5-minute span. Yes, a couple of those were screens that Connor Hellebuyck didn't see. But to me, the game-changing nature of the goal by Brayden Schenn, who already is sort of playing the villain's role here for knocking Mark Scheifele out of Game 5. To me, I'm choosing that as the lamplighter. Yes, of course, honorable mention, Cole Perfetti getting to the net, doing a good job on the power play to score his first playoff goal and get another point. But to me, just I got to give it to Schenn on that one.
Go for it. I love it. That's Kenny's hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, though. Matters what you think. Share with us your TCB lamplighter because it's a good thing to do. It's fun to share these awards. I do have to say, though, that our time of handing out free beer on this show has come to an end. The lamplighter 8-packs have run their course. We want to thank TransCanada Brewing Company for years of allowing our audience to slake their thirst with the nectar of the gods after all of these years. Thank you to them so much. That's a lot of 8-packs. I'm talking, in the neighborhood, Ken, of 240, 50, 60, 70 8-packs.
A lot, yeah.
That TCB Lamplighters or TransCanada Brewing Company handed out through the Kenny and Renny show. It was fun for us to do it. We absolutely love doing it. Thanks so much, folks. You can keep sharing with us your TCB Lamplighters. And in the meantime, you can head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company at 11290 Kenaston and join them in their tap room. They also have a store there and would like to remind everyone that right now they've got a lot of really great deals happening down at TransCanada Brewing Company in their beer store. So go on down there and check it out. And while you're down there, grab some food, see what they have on tap. Always so many great choices to pick from there. And enjoy yourselves down there, folks. That would be it. Okay. Ken, anything to say before we do get going?
Yeah, just quickly, just because it was an interesting part of the game, what do you think? I have an idea here, but let's talk quickly about the timeout usage and then the fact that the Jets chose not to challenge on the play where Bushnevich was in the blue paint, but the contact was caused by Dylan Sandberg. What were your thoughts in real time and with the benefit of 3 hours or whatever it was, 2.5 hours ago?
So in real time, I thought this was coming back. And I just want to say this just quickly while I go. Kyle D says, he's mixing you and I up here, but I realize there's something going on with my microphone in the last number of shows, folks. I'll try and get it figured out here. Just weird. Kenny and I are running ourselves. We're doing a game, hopping on a plane, doing a game, hopping on a plane kind of thing. We're not the most technically savvy guys, if you haven't noticed. As soon as I can get this figured out, I will. But I do realize that there's an issue with my microphone. I can just tell when I listen back to the shows, Kenny sounds amazing. Just had that timbre in his voice. He's got a better voice than me. You should buy his CD, folks, if you have the opportunity. So I'll get that fixed when I can. But back to what we're talking about. I talked with Paulie Edmonds in the break about this. Had a look at it. Initially, Ken, I was like, all day long, challenge this. He's in the crease first. He makes contact with the goaltender.
Entered on his own.
They entered on his own. I think what it comes down to, Ken, is this. The first point of contact that happens is actually Dylan Sandberg's skate with Connor Hellebuyck's skate. And what that does is it seals Connor Hellebuyck off from moving to the left and getting to the puck. That's the first point of contact. The next point of contact, and I don't know if I agree with Scott Arneal on this, is that the Blues player makes contact with the shoulder of or the blocker or the arm at least of Connor Hellebuyck. And I don't necessarily think he was pushed into the goaltender. And what we've seen quite often this year, Ken, is often when a player goes into the crease first and he gets pushed by a player, that doesn't matter. He entered the crease. So I don't necessarily think that's the case. The issue is that after that, Dylan Sandberg collides shoulder to shoulder with Connor Hellebuyck, and there's no way of Connor Hellebuyck getting over to address that puck. So the way I would say it is there a possibility that the Blues player impeded Connor Hellebuyck and kept him from stopping the puck? It's a possibility. It's a definite possibility. But is there an assurance that the way that Dylan Sandberg played that Connor Hellebuyck could not have played the puck because of Dylan Sandberg? And I would say there's an assurance. There's 100% assurance that the way that Dylan Sandberg played that Connor Hellebuyck can't get to the puck. And there's only a question of whether or not the Blues player would have had that effect on the goaltender. And because of the assurance of Dylan Sandberg keeping him from going there, and especially, Ken, because the first point of contact is Dylan Sandberg's right skate on Connor Hellebuyck's left skate, I think if you look at that, there is no way you can say with 100% assurance that that call would have been overturned. I think there's a slight chance it would have been, but I
Yep.
also think in the end the rest would have said, well, what are we doing here? There's no way he could have played it anyways because of his own player. So goal stands, and now all of a sudden it's, you know, a penalty, and you never know how that's going to play out. So I think it was the right call all around. I don't mind the idea of them taking the timeout as well to be like, let's just be extra sure on this. So I think I think it was the right call on the ice. I think it was the right call not to challenge, and I think it was the right call to take the timeout. All around good. Like, you know, everyone was doing their job. That's just how it turns out.
Yeah, and just quickly, you know, the referee was so emphatic, and Elliot Friedman mentioned on the broadcast, Sean, that the coaches are 0-for-3 on goalie interference challenges in the playoffs, and I think also pointed out maybe by Shayna Goldman of The Athletic, 2 of those 3 delay of game penalties have resulted in power play goals. Again, it's just for context. It's not to say what would have happened today, but and then just quickly here, Frosty asks, did I ask if the coach made a mistake? Well, first of all, Frosty, I'm home today. Mike is in St. Louis, but there's no reason to ask the coach if he made a mistake. It would have been a mistake if he hadn't called the timeout, if he was unclear. The Jets bought themselves some extra time to make the right decision. If they don't call the timeout, maybe they decide to challenge. Or again, the Jets didn't need a timeout, so there was no. Well, I just don't understand where the mistake is. I mean, it's not like the Jets missed an opportunity to call a timeout late in the game when they were down 5-2. So, anyways, I didn't see it as a mistake. He was asked about the play in question, and he gave an answer that I thought was more than satisfactory. So, I'm with you. I didn't think it was goalie interference 100%. I mean, I think there was a chance, you know, because of the unpredictable nature and because of what you mentioned with the player going in first. That's generally one of the first rules, but it's not a hard and fast rule. And there was also contact. So it was definitely an interesting one. And, you know, some people were very emphatic, and, you know, maybe you challenge there to get your penalty kill going, but that's easy to say. Because if you give up a power play goal there, then you're looking at it completely differently. So I thought it was handled the right way also.
I'm going to use a baseball analogy here to address Dane Johnson's question here. So I was playing baseball one time. I was trying to throw a double play. I was on second base, and what happened was it was a bunch of all of us knew each other, so things can get a little bit spicy. And as I turned to throw to first base, the player. As I turned to throw to first base, the player ran into me on second, made direct contact and tried to bowl me over. Right. And I did the old thing where I saw him coming, and I like stood up and I threw him the shoulder and kind of popped him back a little bit. Right. And then what happened was the umpire called the play on first base safe. Right. And I was like, well, what's the deal? He's running into me. That's illegal, all this kind of stuff. And the rules as they stand in baseball are that you have to attempt the throw to first base in order for it to be called interference, even if it's like, and this was slow pitch we're talking about, even though you're typically not supposed to run into a guy, in order for him by the rules of the book to have called the runner out on first base, I would have needed to throw it to first base, even if I threw it late. You know what I mean? But I didn't. I held on to the ball. Those are the rules, right? So Dane Johnson is saying here, Helly wasn't allowed to come to the top of the crease due to the Blues player being in the crease because that it's interference. In order for this to be true, Dane, Hellebuyck would have had to have skated out into the player to show and establish that he was trying to get to the ice that the player was in. So it's one of these situations where you may very well have been right. If Hellebuyck tried to get out and challenge and got stopped and impeded by the Blues player because he was in the crease, this may have been the call, but you don't have a case because Connor Hellebuyck isn't trying to get out. He's trying to get to his left where the shot is coming from. So it's not this isn't 1999. This isn't toe in the crease. That's it. It potentially affects the goalie from getting to a specific area. There are rules involved. In order for this to be true, Connor Hellebuyck would have needed to try to get to the ice that player occupied, and it would have needed for him to there would have needed to be a logical argument that he needed to get to that ice in order to properly make the save. He didn't need to get further out of his crease. He needed to get left to where the shot was coming from and clearly entered the net from, would be my take on that whole thing. Ken, anything to say before we get going?
No, should be a fun Game 7, folks. Buckle up and enjoy it.
Okay, that's it for us, folks. Game 7 coming up going to be a beauty, and we will be there to break it all down, folks. But I will say, before we do that, if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, we would appreciate you appreciating our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, K-Marine Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, the Kenny and Renny OGs in the Johnston Group, TransCanada Brewing Company, and of course the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you folks. Let's reconvene and do this when either the Jets are heading on to the second round or heading onto the golf course after Game 7 on Sunday. We'll talk to you then. Bye-bye, folks.